From the Ishan Broadcast Studio, it's Power Players, brought to you by ZDMS.
MPN's Power Player is sponsored by ZDMS Dealer Management System, the heart of technology in your dealership, and the engine that drives productivity and profitability. Schedule a demo today at zdms.com.
Welcome to the Motorcycle and Powersports News Power Player. I'm your host, Brian Ankney. Today, our guest is Brenner from Rollick. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Where'd you come in from today?
I came in from Austin, Texas.
Nice. Well, welcome. Let's dive right in.
Yeah.
Let's talk about leads.
Mm-hmm.
You know, leads are kind of the lifeblood of any sales business. What's the best way to handle leads?
Yeah, that's a great question, because the idea of a lead and handling it at, let's say you're in a scenario where your lead is originating at a manufacturer, you think, oh, just get it to the dealer. But that's really not an intelligent way of handling leads, and that's certainly not the way that we look at lead routing. We focus on the process at the dealer first. So the beautiful thing about generating leads is it's giving information to the dealer and it's giving them an opportunity. But if you're breaking their process, it's actually creating more of a problem for them. Mm-hmm. So we focus on how do they process the leads today, and more importantly, or most importantly, it's get it into the CRM and make sure it's ingested properly, that it's confirmed that it's in there, and then the dealer can work that lead quickly in their normal process. Mm-hmm. Some manufacturers route leads, let's say, just using email, and there's a lot of problems with that, including, did anybody get it? Is that email box still around? Is it some Yahoo mail account from a salesperson that was there 2 years ago? So there's a lot of problems with that type of routing. Mm-hmm. And then there's more intelligent routing beyond just making sure it goes into the dealer's process. So we score every lead. We're looking at the behavior of that consumer that's happening, what they're looking at on a manufacturer's website. Mm-hmm. And even if we're managing leads for a dealer on their own website, we're looking at that and we're pending that and giving that information to the dealer as well. So they have as much information, and it's about getting as much quality to the dealer. It's not about the quantity of leads if the leads are not converting well, but how do you make sure that the leads are positioned best for the dealer so the dealer can close that sale?
The mobility of ZDMS is great. You're not limited to how many people can be in the system and being efficient and working the process. You don't have to be here in the store, and I think that means a lot. So with ZDMS, I can go home, I can take my laptop, I can log in at any time. If I'm on vacation, I need to check things. You know, if you had 4 guys at a local race, or we went and set up somewhere, you do business as usual. For me, if I was out of town with the family, it's end of month, I want to make sure numbers are where they're supposed to be. I've got warranty claims hanging out. I can easily just go check with all my manufacturers, go right to my laptop, complete my repair orders, make sure end of month is clean and good. You know, that's a huge thing for me, being a manager.
Wow. So I mean, beyond just kind of like name, address, phone number, Brian was looking at XYZ bike, you're actually going to give them some more information around, like, oh, you know, Brian while he was on the website, he looked at this, or while he was on the website, he looked at this. So you have a little bit more background to what might motivate me.
That's right. Not only that, but if they're doing other activities, like if you're using one of our tools is we call Rollick Engage. And that is capturing more information around the transaction itself. So does that individual have a trade-in? What is that trade-in worth? Do they have negative equity on the trade-in? Do they want to get pre-qualified? All of that adds up into a more intelligent lead, a more qualified lead, and that helps the dealer with understanding where the consumer is. And in any case with technology or process, you want to meet the consumer where they're at, mm-hmm. and they have high expectations now about technology. And they're willing to give up their information, but they also want that information to be used properly and mm-hmm. intelligently so that this process can go faster. And so that's a big part of what we do, is not just getting them the name, address, email, meaning the dealership. If we're capturing a lead from the manufacturer's site, ideally that includes inventory. And we really focus on increasing the quality, because if the lead comes in with a live piece of inventory that the dealer has on their site, that is way more qualified than just saying, sure, I'm interested in this year, make, model, and hopefully you have it, and I'm going to do this with 5 different dealers because I don't even know if you have it. And so I'm just hedging my bets there. So the quality goes up substantially when you add inventory.
Well, you mentioned intelligent leads. Let's talk a little bit more about intelligent leads. Like what is the big difference between, name, address, phone number, email, and an intelligent lead, and how does that lead to better close ratios?
Yeah, so well, let's use inventory as an example, which I just talked about. You'll see we measure everything that we can because we're in the business of providing software technology to manufacturers and dealers. And if it's not adding value and it's not increasing the sales velocity, then it's not paying for itself and no one's winning there. So we're constantly measuring. And if you just add, let's say, inventory to your process, you could 2 or 3x your close rate at a manufacturer level with that brand. So if you're in typical fashion, the manufacturer wants, if they're spending money to promote their brand and capture a lead, they want the individual to buy at that dealership, wants to buy their brand. But that dealership sells multiple brands, they sell used units, and so you want to increase the quality so the dealer sells a unit. But obviously from a manufacturer's perspective, you want to make sure that they buy your unit. Yeah. And that is one of the best ways to do that. And there's an approach for nurturing, which we can talk about in detail we have a lot of experience with this, where you're making sure that you have conversation going on online via email with the consumer through their journey. So in intelligent routing or intelligent leads, when you think of the idea of just a lead or a highly qualified lead, it is still around data. How do you append more data? How do you first capture more information from the consumer? Because they are very willing to give up their information if they believe they're going to get something for it. So by providing that information to the dealer, and if it's in the dealer's process, the dealer has a higher probability of engaging that consumer very quickly, meeting them where they're at with the information that we've just provided, and then of course closing the deal, which is what every dealer wants. So it's really about how do you smartly deliver information and get that to them as quickly as possible?
Well, I mean, so once the lead gets to the dealership, like how do you help the dealerships to capitalize on that lead and get more sales?
Yeah, so first it starts with the process, right? And there are many examples out there now with manufacturers just breaking process. They're not understanding what the dealer is doing at a process level, so they're delivering a great example is delivering the lead via email. Right, which is effectively the same as Web 1.0 or the beginning of the internet. It is not an effective way where the dealers have tools like CRMs. Where we're helping the dealer is we're looking at we're scoring those leads. We're giving them performance reports around what they're doing. So the extent that we can see sales, we might see that from the manufacturer. We might see that from the dealer's sales data that they're giving us. We might see it out of the CRM. But we're helping them to understand the process that we're incorporating that which mirrors their process, and then helping them see the results of it. So we might, if they're not nurturing, they can offer a nurture program through our platform, where because some of the CRMs in this space in our industry actually can't nurture. They can email an autoresponder. They can email if a dealer is manually writing an email. But if you wanted to talk about a campaign that was going on for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever the buying process is for that consumer. And it can be compressed too, because if the score says this person is really in market and they're probably going to buy within 30 days, then the timeline gets compressed and we're emailing them more frequently over a shorter period of time. But that actually does help them engage in the conversation. The consumer can respond within that email. There's plenty of links. It's all personalized for the dealer. More leads are generated on the dealer site because like inventory might come up and that unit might have been sold, but here's other information. Here's other inventory that you're looking at that we have that's like what you already submitted. And we generate significantly more leads coming off of nurture to help increase the quality with that dealer. So we're trying to help them with understanding data, providing data, but making data actionable. Because information is nice, but if it's not actionable, it's not worth a lot. So we've really focused on that.
Well, yeah, I mean, you mentioned that some manufacturers will send the lead as an email, and then you talk about a 6 or 8 week sales process. I mean, how many people go back? When's the last time you looked at an email you got 8 weeks ago?
Yeah, no, it
never happened.
It doesn't work. We get too many emails now, and There's an email process, and it could include texting and other things. But the goal of technology, and I think the goal of any retailer, is to meet the consumer where they're at. And there's high benchmarks there with Amazon and Apple, and there's so much intelligence going on. I booked a flight to come down here, and then I get the email confirmation, and then my mail app knows to put that into my calendar. Mm-hmm. And these are things that are happening automatically, and we're expecting this level of intelligence and sophistication. And that's what we're trying to bring to the manufacturer engagement with the consumer and the dealer engagement with the consumer, and make it so that, a good example is when you go to a dealer's website and you submit your information on a unit, and then you might decide, well, now I want to get a quote on my trade-in. Well, you have to resubmit your information again. And then you want to get pre-qualified. Well, you need to start over and submit your information again. Or you come back and look at a different unit and decide to submit on that unit. You have to start all over again. So in a normal sales process, if you were to say to a salesperson, how many times would you like to start that sales process over from moment one? They would say, I'd never want to start it again. Just one time is all we need, and then I want to take it from there. And so we look at things like that and say, no, that's not meeting the consumer where they're at with what they expect to be. And if you're managing a brand or a dealership that cares about their brand and their presence in the market, you need to, technology is an important part of closing the sale, of bringing that consumer in, of giving them confidence and letting them know that we've got you, that we're sophisticated enough to understand where you're at and what you want to do online, and then we're going to take care of you in the dealership for sure.
I think that's something that a lot of businesses will fall into a trap. We look at it and say, okay, we're kind of siloed. Like, okay, well, my customers don't expect any more than what my competition is doing. But realistically, your customers expect everything that Amazon is doing. That's right. That's right. We all have this 2 clicks to buy experience on Amazon. If I'm a consumer, I want to buy a motorcycle the same way I buy a T-shirt on Amazon. Like I want it to know me. I want it to know where I've been, what I've done, what I like. I mean, their expectation is not based upon what your competitors are doing. It's based upon their best online experience they've ever had.
Absolutely, that is the benchmark. And if you come up short, imagine you go to a manufacturer's website, or even the dealer's website, but let's use the manufacturer as an example, and you want to submit your information. They say, contact us, submit your information, and you get a page and it says, here's our mailing address. How could this possibly be? I don't think anybody's doing that right now.
Yeah.
But they might be saying, let me just get your name, address, and I'll send it out to a dealership. That is not what the consumer expects. And when they submit their information, they expect to get contacted very, very quickly. And to the extent that is going out in an email to someone's inbox at the dealership, that might not get contacted ever. I think 50% of the leads never get contacted in general. Wow. But it might take days, and the manufacturer has no idea whether anyone received that, whether the email was opened, and whether that's been followed up. Getting it into the process, into the dealer's CRM, that's how to make sure that a good dealer is going to follow up very, very quickly on that. But you brought up an example of what they expect. There's a lot that goes into meeting that expectation. It is a high bar, and when you've got companies like Amazon and Apple training the consumer to have a buying experience, it's really hard for this ecosystem to deliver on that, because it can't. Because if you go to a manufacturer, the manufacturer can never sell anything. They have to sell through a franchise dealer network. Mm-hmm. So that makes it a more complicated process for them generating a customer for the dealer, them nurturing, meaning manufacturer, nurturing the customer and maintaining a relationship where they can never ask for the order, where Amazon or Apple can just say, you want to buy now, here's a buy now button. But we do studies on recreation buying and their buying patterns and what the consumer wants. Mm-hmm. And what we see more and more over the years as we've done this is that 80% of the consumers want to start their journey online. So there's still 20% that just want to walk into a store, but 80%, and that number has grown. It was 70, it was 73, it was 78, it's 80% now, want to start their journey online. And there's a variety of things that they want to do online, but 80% want to finish their journey at a dealership. So the dealership is still critical to the process. And the idea that you're going to buy these things online, like you buy an Apple or on Amazon, I don't think is there. I think it's going to be very hard to get there because these are enthusiast purchases. And the beautiful thing about talking to a dealer is they're mostly enthusiasts, and they know how to talk to an enthusiast. They know how to talk product. And that's what everyone really wants to talk about. They don't want to talk about the negotiation or price. People love talking about product in these categories. And I mean, when you're buying a Powersport, it's like, this is all about fun.
Yeah.
I mean, why else are you buying this? So the dealer is very, very important. I don't see them getting cut out anytime soon, but more of that process the consumer is expecting to do online. Why should they fill out an application for, let's say, financing while sitting in the store when they can fill it out online? They should certainly get pre-qualified while they're online before they know when they go in the store. And that's better for the dealer because when they're following up with the lead, they already know this person under the dealer's underwriting guidelines, which they load up into our system, they know that this person is going to get funded. It's, high quality lead. And if they've gone through that process, they are in funnel more. They are deeper in the funnel. They're very serious about buying. And these are all indicators to say, okay, I want to follow up with these leads first. Mm-hmm. But it's very hard to meet the customer expectations. There's tools like ours that really try and get you there. But we also understand, and the tools understand, the dealer is critical to the process. The in-person purchase is what 80% of the consumers still want to do. They want to walk in that store, they want to talk to someone, and they want to close the deal. So that's understanding that, I think, is very, very important for the whole ecosystem to look at and say, okay, how are we designing systems to make sure that we're supporting the dealer in the store, not just making it so we're going to have this gigantic leap and people are going to start buying online. It's not going to happen that much yet.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. I mean, like, if you're excited to buy something, you want to touch it.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to hold it. You want to, you want to look at it. I mean, pictures online might help you narrow your search.
Yeah.
But you actually want to go and touch it and hold it. I mean, it's a lot easier to return a shirt on Amazon than it is to return a motorcycle.
Right. And there's a lot of accessorization that goes with these things.
Yeah.
And you want to see what the options are, what options for light bars and doors, and there's so many things that are fun to buy. And the experience at the dealership should be a lot of fun. So that the more friction you can move to online that becomes frictionless, the better it is for them. So technology really is their friend. Manufacturers and dealers might look at technology as an expense, but if it's increasing close rate and efficiency and sales velocity, it's not an expense. It's part of the sales team.
Yeah.
And it really can, we see tons of data. We're measuring it all the time to say, are we increasing the close rate? And based on which product you're talking about, we're increasing the close rate by 30%, 35%, 3xing just a close rate on leads versus on the leads that we process versus just normal regular leads that come from a manufacturer. So there are ways where we've proven, and it's very important to prove, that the results are there. Otherwise, why should they be buying these products? And we wouldn't feel good about selling them just for the sake of selling them.
Nice. Well, I want to come back to the topic of nurturing. Because I've heard you use the term nurture, ensuring, scoring. Mm-hmm. And I'd like to understand a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so this gets to the idea that emailing, communication in a shopping funnel mm-hmm. is very, very important. And so if you think about, if you go to Amazon and you put something in your shopping cart and then you don't buy, you're getting an email on it. Did you forget this? It's still available. And then you might get one 2 days later, 3 days later, and then there's other things that Amazon's emailing you or Apple, whoever you're trying to interact with or you've purchased from before, you're a customer. So nurture is not a new concept. In the Powersports industry, in particular, many of the CRMs don't do what's called a nurture campaign, and many manufacturers don't use nurturing as a campaign. Mm-hmm. So the idea of nurture is to say, all right, we understand this shopping funnel is not like buying a t-shirt where you can go Amazon, decide you want to buy it, and just buy it that second. It might take 60 days. In the case of RVs, it's like 6 months. And so you have to nurture, you have to build a relationship, build a rapport, whether at the brand level or at the dealer level through that process. So our system, when you go to a manufacturer's website and they're using us for lead routing and for nurture, well, we've built a campaign with the manufacturer, mm-hmm. and that campaign is going for some period of time, and it shortens up if the score goes up, and it goes longer if the score goes down, because we're constantly looking at the data and scoring the individual and and figuring out, some manufacturers do concierge. Well, these are ready for concierge, or these are not ready for concierge. And there's other data that you can understand from them. So if you know what the trade-in is, and as a manufacturer, you can look and say, well, this is a conquest, or this is a loyalty. They already own my brand, or this is a conquest and they're interested in me. How should I treat this, or how should I talk to them? All of that gets built up in a nurture campaign over, let's say, a 60-day window. And so it's a series of emails that dynamically change based on new data coming in, what data we're getting from the CRM at the dealer level to make sure that we're supporting the dealer the right way. You know, like, it would be a terrible thing or I should say terrible, but it's a broken process if the dealer has booked an appointment, as an example, and then the manufacturer sends an email saying, has the dealer contacted you? Well, the appointment's already set. Why should you ask that question? You shouldn't. At that point, when the appointment is booked with the dealer, the manufacturer, all the communication should be pointing to, why buy from that dealer? Support the dealer, support the dealer, support the dealer. Get the close, and which is what everyone wants. So nurturing is a communication path, and we have a great program. I'll use one example with the manufacturer where they want our system to nurture all of their leads coming into a dealer, not coming from the manufacturer site, but coming from all the other sources that are routed into our system. Then we have a nurture campaign built with the manufacturer, so it's all extremely professional. It's gorgeous photography and content. And if the manufacturer wants to change something, it's a one-to-many, change this image for this unit, and it goes out, and all their dealers then suddenly have it. And by taking that inventory, those leads coming in, and nurturing them through this professional campaign, if you will, but still it appears to the consumer that it's coming from the dealer, that's shown a close rate increase of 33%, which is significant. And all that is about is, how do you communicate with the proper information to the consumer on a cadence that they want? And unfortunately, that's missing in this industry in a lot of cases, depending on which CRM you do. And even if your CRM does it, are you doing it properly with using the data to understand how frequently you should send information, what the content of that information should be of that email? So we've looked at this and done so many of these. We have over 1,000 dealers on that program. And it's learning all the time to understand what gets the greatest click rates, what generates more appointments, what information and how it's positioned generate incremental leads at the dealership. And so all that's working to increase close rate, and that's what everyone wants.
Well, I mean, I'd have to say, if I was a dealer, I think I would rather trust your data than trust, 5 or 6 of, my salespeople to just come up with the best idea. I mean, being able to send something professional and something that is working, that you're constantly, tweaking to adjust to what's working better, but based on your data. I mean, like that is such an improvement to process.
The data helps a lot because there's so much scale to the data. It doesn't mean that we don't take ideas from the dealership, and sometimes they have great ideas and they can communicate to us, and we can change campaigns for them. And they have a lot of input in how they want it to look. There's multiple templates that are available, but many of these dealers like a set it and forget it approach. But yes, when you're using enough information, enough response, you're sending out 10, 20, 30, 50,000 emails on a topic, and you see the response of that, you get to then tweak it and understand what the next one should be. And that's a lot. That brings that scale down to the dealer level, so they're as smart and as powerful and as sophisticated as what we're doing at a national level on a brand with a brand, or across just many dealers to learn from that. So that again is the goal. I think one of the themes is data. The data's got to be actionable, and so we look at the data. The dealer doesn't need to look at a lot of data, and we incorporate it into the process to make it actionable for them.
Yeah, well, and I guess another benefit to that is now your salespeople, instead of writing emails, they're shaking hands, they're making phone calls. I mean, they're building relationships, and that's really where they flourish.
Yeah, they all need to call, and it's hard to reach people. A lot of people want to be communicated via email and text still, but the ability for the individual to say, I'm ready. And there's a lot of calls to action in all these emails. I want to set up an appointment. I want to talk to someone about financing. I want to fill out a financing app right now. And so the extent that they can do anything online, let them do that online, because it's less friction. And when the dealer and the salesperson is ready to talk to the consumer, they're talking about all the fun things. Not, hey, let me get you back into a process and I need you to fill out this long finance application. It's the product. Which accessories do you want? Let's get you in here. When do you want to take a look at it, test drive, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
I mean, those are all the fun things, and that's what consumers want. That's what these buyers want out of their dealers. They want that experience, and that's why the dealer component is super, super important at the end of a process for sure.
Well, now, how can a dealership connect financially up funnel?
Yeah. So we have tools for that. And our philosophy is, I think when I talk about a dealer's process, it's also a dealer's system. And which other companies are they using to make sure that we're not creating more work for them? But specifically on financing, our tools, we have a tool called Engage that sits on a manufacturer site, and it sits on the dealer site. And think about it as a digital retailing tool that captures more information than just the lead itself, meaning the unit and then the name, address, email, and phone number. So in that, they can say, I want to give the consumer, meaning the dealer, I want to give the consumer the option of getting pre-qualified before they come in the store, while they're in their journey, to let them know that when they're working with us, we've got them covered. And it's not like they would get a no if they don't pass the pre-qual, but it would be like, okay, you need to talk to a dealer, because the dealer many times can still work things out. But there's a very clear path where a dealer sets up their profile and says, with this score, with this amount of years at work, and whatever else they put in from a sort of a preliminary underwriting guideline, they know with all of their lenders that are available to them that they can get that person funded with a loan.
Mm-hmm.
They load that up, and then whether they're pushing it on their own site or we're pushing it up to the manufacturer's site for a lead that's going into that dealer, that's moving financing up further. And if the consumer is willing to go through a pre-qual, they are much more likely to buy. They are really in funnel. And the close rates, just by putting that on there, the close rates are significantly higher, like 3 times higher if they go through a pre-qual than just a normal lead. The key point of that also is that we're integrated with some of the other systems that the dealer uses. So if you want to run pre-qual and you're already on, let's say, 700 credit, well, we're integrated with 700 credit. So we use that system already. We don't have to create another system for you, and another bill and another provider in terms of pre-quals. So there's ways where if you're not integrated or you don't have a solution, we have a solution for you. But we're trying to look at things and say, how does a dealer do it today? And how do we make sure we're just using their resources that they already have to make it less work for them, less management, less things to log into. It's all about that. But moving financing up the funnel, I think, is hugely valuable as an indicator to determine quality of a lead.
Let's talk about a recent success story. Tell me a great story about a dealer that you recently had a great success with.
Yeah. So we had one motorcycle dealer who just now is expanded to multiple locations, but started with our wanted leads from our marketplace that we have. So we operate marketplaces for Sam's Club and for AAA and others. So very high quality leads, as well as they used our Engage tool, which is a digital retailing tool, and Nurture. And they tried it for a while, a little skeptical, but said, I want to try this. And they were seeing a 14% close rate, and 74% of the leads coming through had a pre-qual on them. So when you're talking about just normal leads coming through, 14% close rate is pretty significant when it comes to just general lead population coming from marketplace as well as from their own website. But we were processing these, all the leads were processed through the Engage tool to capture, do you have a trade-in, do you want to get pre-qualified, and then nurtured. And all that information goes into the Nurture stream. So we understand already that this consumer, we know that they have a trade if they submitted on a trade. We know that they're pre-qualified, so we don't have to ask about, do you want to get financing? We know that they want financing. And then the content of the Nurture brings them down the funnel more. If you're pre-qualified, we're going to nurture you over a 30-day window instead of a 60-day window, as an example. The score understands that, or whatever compression time there is. We're looking at the dealer's CRM and pulling data back to make sure that we're not asking a question that's already been answered at the CRM level. And if the sale was closed, then you need to stop the nurture.
Yeah.
So all those things work in concert with what dealers' systems are. But that's a great example of a dealer who I think started off saying, well, let me try it. I'll check this out. to now completely dedicated to it, and then expanded it to their second store because of the results that they've seen. So that's a good one. We have plenty of stories. Another good one on a manufacturer level, I brought up the manufacturer that was doing a nurture campaign across their dealer network. And this is a lot of dealers. And they started off in a pilot for a year. They were piloting our nurture program where we're nurturing the dealer's leads, not the manufacturer's leads. And the dealer's leads, meaning that specific brand that came in. And they saw a 33% increase in close rate. I mentioned this earlier. And it was super powerful to them where they said, all right, we're going network wide now. And this is a key part of our solution. And it works. And it's back to meeting the consumer where they're at. 80% want to do so much more online. You can't avoid it. To the extent that you're not living up to their expectations, and it's a knock on your brand. If you're a manufacturer, it's a knock on your brand. If you're a dealer, like, why are some dealers more sophisticated than others? Because I expect so much more out of any purchase process that I'm in. So, but everything we do with our dealer, we're measuring to quantify, to show them performance reports, to say, this is what's happened. We've measured this. We've measured it against, let's say, a subset that has not been nurtured or not been run through the Engage tool. And let's see how they came out. And there's always a comparison, and there's always an ability to quantify how much more you made. In a sense, they can use the numbers of how much more they actually make, but we're going to quantify the number of sales that they got for them to feel comfortable understanding that if they're using Rollick tools, that they're delivering value.
Awesome. Well, is there anything more you'd like to share with our audience today?
I think in this, there's a lot going on, right? Whether you want to talk tariff issues or just macro issues in general, and you've got multiple years of decline, year over year decline, which is really, really hard right now. But I would say technology should not be looked at, whether it's ours or anybody else's, should not be looked at as a cost center, but as a sales center. It is part of your sales enablement, and the quality can go up and the close rate can increase. And so we do I mentioned the study, 80% want to start online. That's a true fact, that you can't deny that. And it's probably going to get to 90% at some point. The younger generation is probably at 100% because they want to do more at the convenience of the timeline that they want, with entering information very, very quickly. AI is coming up really fast, and so that's going to increase the speed and velocity of what information they want distributed, and how they want to be talked to, and how intelligently they want to be talked to. I mean, think about what's happened now with search versus just talking to ChatGPT. It's remarkable how quickly that has changed the retrieval of information environment, right? Where the search box is now, whether it's Grok or ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever you're using, those are things that have to be considered. And yes, these products still need to be physically picked up, and 80% still want to walk in that store and smell the product, feel the product, touch it, drive it, sit in it, whatever it is. But momentum is there, and the acceleration of technology is happening so quickly that the ones that are not engaging in tech, especially at the OEM level, because you can't walk in their store. It's not inevitable you're going to be working with them in any other way other than the contact that they have online, because everything else happens at the dealer. They need to embrace the technology, and they need to route properly to set the dealer up for success. And I think that's one of the biggest concerns when you're looking at tech is this helping the dealer close, or am I just doing a process, checking a box, I got the name to the dealer, and it's the dealer's problem. And that's just not a good way to invest in marketing, invest in sales, and invest in a brand. So I would say everyone look out for the next year or the next 2 years, but the next 6 months is rapidly changing how we interact with technology. And we're excited about it to invest in those tools to make it smarter for the dealer and smarter for the manufacturer, because in the end, we're measured, and everyone should be measured on what's the close rate. And that's how we look at everything we do every day at Rollick. And we have 150 brands now that use us, manufacturers, that use us to connect with their dealers, and then connect the consumer information to the dealer, and then connect with the consumer to support the dealer through a shopping process. So I'll just leave you with, for us, we live and breathe that, and I think it's wholeheartedly important for everyone to embrace some technology, whether it's ours or some other solution that's out there.
Great. Well, thank you for coming in today.
Thanks for having me. This has been great.
Yeah, this was a fun time.
Yeah.
And thank you for taking the time to join us for this Motorcycle and Power Sports News Power Player. Today, our guest has been Bernie Brenner from Rollick. I'm your host, Brian Ankney. We hope to see you again on a future episode.